A few years ago when my channel was just taking off, I made a pair of videos about the best and worst levels in every Super Mario entry, realizing now that those weren't as well done as I'd like and are in desperate need for an upgrade. Instead of making two separate entries, I decided to combine this remake into one gigantic video, not only using my personal preferences to form my decisions, but also other people's lists, to really paint a clear picture of what levels deserve to be showcased. Before I get everything started here, my name is Copycat, and if you haven't yet, then please subscribe to my channel, hitting that bell button to stay notified when I upload new videos. Of course, the first game we're going to look at is the franchise's home debut in Super Mario Bros. For the NES, where I think without a doubt I'd have to include World 1-1 on the best side of things, as it really is the level that started it all. This one's all about the nostalgic feels, as 1-1 must be the most replayed level of all time, perfectly laid out in a certain way to teach new players how to platform in this wacky world. There's not really any distinguishing features that set this stage apart from the rest, but it is an instant classic that almost everyone has fond memories of. The only other level I think that's worth mentioning on the best side of things is the final one of the game, World 8-4, as it perfectly blends fun platforming elements with a pretty cool maze mechanic, where taking the wrong pipe will lead you back to the start. This is the perfect challenge to cap off this amazing original title, and even though maze-type levels aren't for everyone, this one at least isn't as bad as some others in the series. On the flip side of things, I'd have to say one level that uses a puzzle mechanic in the wrong way is World 7-4, as you have to choose the right path or risk having to go back to the beginning. This doesn't really add anything special to the gameplay, as there's no risk involved and leads to more frustration in having to guess where to go than anything else. I won't lie, as a kid I always made my sister complete this level as she had memorized the route, and quite honestly I just couldn't be bothered. The second game in the series is Super Mario Bros. 2, where I personally have to say that my favorite level in the game is the Icy World 4-1. Trying to speedrun this stage, sliding on the slick ground while dodging the flurry enemies is tons of fun, and I love the added touch of having to take the rocket to progress to the next screen. On top of all that, it holds the incredibly hilarious bob-omb enemy, which are moving cannons that are ridden by Shy Guys who shoot fire at you. Yeah, it's just amazing and weird. One level that I really liked, but many people say they despise, is World 6-2. So I've decided to put it in the halfway point of this video, as I knew at least it needed to be talked about. What's so controversial about this one is having to use the albatross enemies as platforms, trying your best to get across the canyon and avoid falling into the void. I do get that this is pretty rudimentary, but I at least like the attempt at a different type of level, and that's why I enjoy it. One level that most people consider pretty awful is the final one of the game, World 7-2, as it's an underwhelming experience that actually can be completed pretty quickly. Really the most difficult part of this level are the sparks, as they are hard to avoid and are in areas that you have to platform through. That is, if you take the long way. If you take the shorter route, then you honestly won't have much of an issue getting the key and making it to Wart, who once again isn't that formidable of a foe. There might be a few levels that are technically worse than this one, but its disappointing difficulty for an ultimate level is why it makes this video. The final installment of the original series is Super Mario Bros. 3, where I'd have to say that the best level in the game is World 4-1, as it introduces Giant Land, where the enemies appear massive. Although this seems a bit gimmicky, I always found it a blast to play through, as it puts a very interesting spin on what people were used to. There are a few other levels that come pretty close in being considered the best, but this one just has a special place in my heart. One level that many people put on the top of their lists is the World 8 airship. And even though I don't necessarily agree with it being the best, I do acknowledge that it's good. I think it's the unforgiving nature of the tough platforming sections being so hard without a Super Leaf power-up, where you'll surely fall in the void a few times or get hit by a wrench from the rocky wrenches. Trust me when I say this is a frustrating experience that can be fun for better players, but unfun for newer ones. A level that's very similar but way worse is the World 8 tank stages, as they're full of projectiles that are shot towards you, and the annoying bob-omb enemies that stop at nothing to explode in your face. Getting to the end of these ones seems more like a chore due to the insane ways that you can die. And on top of that, the frame drops due to too many enemies being on screen at once is just annoying. One level that many people, including myself, think is really bad is World 3-8, as it has the mechanic of changing tides, but this happens very rapidly, making it a slog to progress through. On top of all this, the boss bass is the main enemy that tries to kill you, and I say kill instead of damage because it can swallow you whole, making you lose a life. This game is massive with so many unique levels, so I'd love to know what you consider good and bad in the comments below. Honestly, I had a really tough time even picking the best level in Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, but in the end, I settled with World 5-1, as it possesses a very interesting layout, making things look almost incomplete. Although there are some crazy platforming sections, there are also even crazier secrets where finding a beanstalk will lead to a cool cloud area, then eventually a warp to World 6. The only other level I sort of like from this strange entry is World C3, as it contains the springboards, which at least is a cool feature, even if there are plenty of enemies that try to get in your way and kill you. I won't lie, I also had trouble picking the worst level in this game, as there truly are so many awful ones. But in the end, I went with World 8-3. I just think this is a pretty uninspiring level, with enemies placed in extremely awkward positions that are hard to avoid, and it just isn't that fun in the end. The first handheld game in the series was Super Mario Land for the Game Boy, as I have to say that the best levels in this entry are the ones that let you ride in a vehicle. This takes place in Worlds 2-3 and 4-3, where you're either in a plane or a submarine, and you can fire projectiles towards your enemies, which is a nice change of pace from the normal platforming. Another level I thought was pretty good is World 3-1, as it's a mix of fun platforming with a cool section where you have to ride a rock over rocky spikes. I know it's not anything too crazy, but for the time, a mechanic like this was game-breaking. The only level I would really consider bad is World 4-1, as it contains annoying enemies in very tough sections where it's very, very easy to lose a life. Without a fire flower, you'll definitely have a pretty rough time, and I constantly got many game overs during this specific section of my playthroughs. The next game in the franchise was Super Mario World, that was released for the SNES in 1990, really having an abundance of great levels, including the sunken ghost ship found just before the Valley of the Bowser. This level has a very distinctive enemy in the massive disappearing Boo Buddy Swarm, who take up almost the entirety of the dank underwater ship, so you need to be very careful where you swim, or you'll surely get hurt. Even cooler is when you reach the area where you need to fall down the Black Void, collecting coins and defeating enemies along the way. Another level I want to mention before I move on to the bad side of things is Donut Plains 1, mainly because it introduces the Cape power-up, an item that allows you to fly around the stage and hover. The level itself is laid out to promote this new flying mechanic, including a sub-area filled with coins to collect, helping you understand how to use this power-up. I had so much trouble trying to come up with another good level, mainly just because there's so many of them, so let me know what you think are the best ones in the comments below. A level that almost always makes people's worst lists is the Special Tubular Stage, which forces you to use the strange power balloon power-up to traverse through the open air. Not only is forcing you to play this way a bad thing, but it also makes trying to complete this stage painstakingly difficult, which just isn't a fun thing. The second handheld game of the franchise is Super Mario Land 2 for the Game Boy, where without a doubt I'd have to say that the best level is the final one, Wario or Mario's Castle. I think this one's really good as it perfectly combines amazing enemies, fun platforming sections, even if they are a bit simple, but I do get that Nintendo just had to work through the limitations of the time. Like I said, at the end you do face off against the big bad Wario, who actually does put up a bit of a fight, equipping himself with the game's different power-ups. Another level that deserves to be showcased on the good side of things is the Tree Zone stage called The Exit, as it has a tight platforming section that offers a pretty decent challenge. This isn't too easy or too difficult, but just a perfect medium for most people to consider it good. One stage that most people would consider bad is the Space Zone Star level, only because of how boring this one is with not much of a challenge. Not only that, but this isn't necessarily a space level, and plays much more like an underwater one, as you have to swim through the air, avoiding the stars rather than jumping. At the end is also one of the worst boss battles of the game, the Totanga, set in an uninspired area that's just easy to complete. The very first 3D game in the series is Super Mario 64 for the N64, where I'd have to say that my favorite level from the game is its very first, Bob-omb Battlefield. Not only is this the perfect introduction to 3D platforming, but it's also full of fun challenges like racing the Quick Koopa, and figuring out how to defeat the gigantic Chain Chomp. Another level that I definitely have to include on the best portion is Cool Cool Mountain, the snow-capped stage that's full of amazing twists and turns. Obviously, the highlights are rescuing the penguin, finding the secret slide, and trying to roll the huge snowball down the hill without it falling into the void below. One level that's universally hated amongst essentially everyone who's played this entry is Rainbow Ride, that has you traversing on a moving platform throughout the course. I'm gonna have to say that the boringness of this level and the terrible camera is what causes this one to be so bad, to the point where I usually just skip it if I can. Up next, we're gonna look at Super Mario Sunshine that came out for the GameCube in 2002, which is a very divisive game in the series due to the introduction of the FLUDD, but at least most people will agree that Pianta Village is generally a good level. I think it's the huge changes that happen in the stage depending on which episode you're playing, as it can either be a fiery hellscape, a dark scary ghost town, or a summertime holiday destination, which adds a huge variety to your gameplay. I guess one downside is that the level may be a bit small, but its uniqueness is why it makes this video. One stage that might actually be the worst in the entire series is Corona Mountain, which is a volcano that leads to the final Bowser and Bowser Jr. boss battle. What makes this one so awful is the lake of lava that you need to maneuver around using your FLUDD in a wooden boat, which I always felt was a bit broken and never really worked properly. There's not much to do in this strange stage other than hope you can make it across the lava without losing a life, although that's easier said than done. Also, in 2022, that's just an unfortunate name. I mean, you know, Corona, you know what I mean. Nintendo would return the series to its 2D roots with new Super Mario Bros. For the DS, where World 8-6 is a very solid level with an interesting stage feature. It's funny because I just critiqued Super Mario Sunshine's worst level for taking place inside a volcano, and this best level has the same setting. However, this is a much more fulfilling experience that requires pinpoint platforming precision while having to outrun the rising lava. I guess I do also have to mention the final level of the game, World 8 Castle, as it really is a standout, as it perfectly incorporates all past features from throughout the game's worlds, while adding a path-based puzzle to bump up its appeal. Of course, including a final level is sorta cheating, as they usually are intentionally made to be the perfect culmination of the title, but this entry's is particularly good. A level that many people hate that also shows up in World 8 is its 8th stage, mainly because it has volcanic debris raining down from the sky that's basically impossible to avoid. This just straight up is a terrible feature for a second last level, and just feels like an uninspired mess. Super Mario Galaxy is the next game we're going to look at in this video, where I can confidently put the Freeze Flame Galaxy in the best spot, as it perfectly integrates ice and fire elements. The ability to skate on the icy sections of this stage is also a huge draw, as it's a mechanic never before seen in a Mario title, and in conjunction with the Ice Flower power-up, creates some amazing moments. I'm not really sure any other Galaxy comes close to the greatness of this one, and I'm not even gonna ask you guys to let me know in the comments below, because I wouldn't agree with you, so there. It's pretty obvious to anyone who's fully 100% completed Super Mario Galaxy that the secret level that unlocks allowing you to get the 151st star, the Grand Finale Galaxy, is by far the worst. With a name like that, you'd suspect a wonderfully done level with either tons of fun moments or incredibly tough platforming. But what we got instead is just a mission to collect 100 purple coins on the castle grounds. As a prize for fully finishing the game, this one is really weak, and Nintendo would at least learn their lesson and have better bonus levels in later entries. The second game in the new Super Mario Bros. Sub-series was the Wii title that came out in 2009, where a lot of lists have World 9-8 near their top, mainly because of the fun platforming around the King Bills. Playing around these huge, indestructible enemies gives things a very different feel, and seeing them absolutely destroy the level is very satisfying. Another one that always seems to receive high praise is World 8-7, probably because it's a tough lava platforming level that requires you to ride a spine coaster to move through it. The perfect balance between hard and fun always produces the best levels, and trying to get all the collectibles will have you replaying this one many times. One level I guess I'd consider bad is World 8-4, as not only is it an underwater level, but it's also pitch black, where you need to use the luminescence of the jelly beams to progress forward. This level just is a bit too gimmicky in the annoying sense, and is not a mechanic that I love. Probably my favorite game of the series is Super Mario Galaxy 2 for the Wii, which has a few levels I want to mention, starting with the supermassive galaxy. Just like Giant Land from Super Mario Bros. 3, this stage turns every enemy into their much larger form, leading to some very different gameplay. I might just be biased as I have such fond memories of playing this level as a kid, but I'm sure many won't be mad about its inclusion. One level I'm definitely going to talk about as many people love it is the Tall Trunk Galaxy, mainly because it contains one thing that almost every Mario fan enjoys, a slide. This is the most intense that we've ever seen in the franchise, but that added risk honestly just means added fun, and I want to see way more in the future. A level that definitely can be mentioned on the bad side of this video is the Mario Squared Galaxy, located in World S, which is just a planet made of platforms shaped like Mario. All you have to do is trigger the blue question mark tiles by walking on them to turn them yellow. Yeah, that's it. There are a few enemies that try and stop you, and the Luigi version of this planet is a bit harder as you have to collect the 100 purple coins, but it still has a pretty bland layout. One level from New Super Mario Bros. For the Wii U that really surprised me when I first played it is Starry Night, due to its fantastic art style that makes it look like you're in a painting of the same name. The platforming in this stage isn't really anything special, as you just have to jump across a few moving pipes while avoiding the piranha plants and boos, but it's too interesting not to show off. Now, in doing my research for this video, I realized that I probably know the least about New Super Mario Bros. U compared to any other entry in the franchise, so let me know what your pick for best level is in the comments. In terms of the worst levels, I've heard a lot of people say that they hate the Don't Touch Anything Coin Collection Challenge, which is a bit misleading as in this case, you can't collect a single one. This is one of the most frustrating Mario challenges of all time, where you have to get really skillful and patient to complete it. Another level I hear a lot of complaints about is called Meteor Moat, which is a lava-based stage with raining debris. Okay, I don't think this is anywhere close to as bad as the DS version, but if the general population hate it, then I have to include it. A game that perfectly blended the series' 3D and 2D aspects is Super Mario 3D Land for the 3DS, where I'd have to say that one level I love is World 5-2. This is due to the fact that the majority of the stage is from a top-down perspective, making you feel like you're in a Zelda dungeon and not in the Mushroom Kingdom. This is an ingenious idea that unfortunately hasn't been used again in the series, but I definitely love to see more. I was actually shocked to learn that most people put World 8 Crown on their terrible levels list, as I welcome the much more difficult challenge, but do understand that it has its shortcomings. One example of this is that without a Super Leaf power-up, you'll have tons of trouble through several of its tight platforming areas, leading to dozens of deaths. I really still don't get the hate for it, and could name a handful of levels that really deserve it instead. I mean, just really pick any underwater level from this game, as they're all boring to me. Next up, we're going to look at New Super Mario Bros. 2 for the 3DS, which is by far my least favorite entry in the series, but I still managed to find one good level in the world final Star Castle. This was the only moment in the game that gave me any sort of difficulty at all, as there's a part where you need to strategically avoid the flash of light from the Koopalings by hiding behind pieces of the wall. Doing this while on a moving snake can be tricky to get a proper hang of, but satisfying to figure out. Bone Bowser turning giant is also a pretty cool touch. Too bad this game is just awful. I guess in the worst level spot, I'm just gonna put every single rainbow stage, as they're pretty useless bonus areas, really just giving you tons of coins. These are also only opened if the last 2 digits on the timer match which world you're in, meaning that it's mainly found by random and not through a secret exit. Lame. One game that's jam-packed full of great levels is Super Mario 3D World, where off the top of my head, I can think of ones like Mount Mustache, the Great Goal Pole, and Mystery House Marathon. But I'd have to leave the ultimate stage, Champions Road, with the honors of the best. This is almost a perfect final level, incorporating all the difficult elements in the game in one action-packed experience. It's long, there are no checkpoints, and no power-ups. Perfect for an insane person like me. There are actually two bad levels I want to go over, starting with Backstreet Bustle. And although it serves its purpose in teaching you about the cherry power-up, it's probably the tiniest level you've ever seen, and serves literally zero risks. The other is Rammerhead Reef, as honestly I just feel like underwater levels don't work well in this type of 3D environment. So instead they literally made a 2D one, and it just feels like the worst part of the Donkey Kong franchise. Not good. Super Mario Odyssey ditches traditional levels in place of kingdoms, which are much larger main areas full of small sub-areas. In this game, my absolute favorite is the Metro Kingdom, as it's the first real time we've seen Mario in a city-like landscape, and platforming up those tall skyscrapers is an awesome experience. I also love all the small details that the developers left, and have spent hours studying every unique nook and cranny. Honestly, a few others come in a close second to this one, but its brand new feel is why it's so good. Picking the worst level in this game is extremely easy, as that acknowledgement goes to the Cloud Kingdom, as it's incredibly small and devoid of any life. I'm actually serious, this level only has a few platforms with only a small amount of things to do. There's not even as many clouds as I expected either. Strange how incomplete this feels, but oh well. Although the layout of Bowser's Fury is one gigantic lake, it at least is broken into different areas, with one of the best having to be Slip Skate Slope. If you haven't guessed, that's because you need to use the skate power-up to make it through this fun obstacle course. And even if it's pretty simple, it's still very different. Another area I really enjoyed is Mount Magmeow, as it was a lot of fun trying to figure out how to scale to its top, bringing things back to the old Super Mario 64 and Super Mario Sunshine way of gameplay. Now I'd have to say that the worst of these areas is Fort Flaptrap, only because it uses an obstacle and mechanic that really isn't new to any Mario fan. There's not even really any intricate parts to this section of the world, and just makes me feel like they needed something to fill the void. Alright, that's gonna be it for today's video, guys. I really hope you did enjoy this one. If you did, please leave a like, comment below what you thought about it, and of course subscribe to my channel. Also, please go follow my Instagram at CopyCatGamer. There I upload some cool clips and items from my collection that you won't see anywhere else. Hope you guys all have a good day, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye!